Good morning, students. This is going to be a lesson on number sense, grade 7, lesson 88, page 135 136. These next two pages are on a similar topic, which is all about adding integers and using number lines to add integers and those sorts of ideas. So our last lesson, we talked about gains and losses. A gain is when a number will increase, and a loss will when a number decreases. And we wanted to understand what an integer was. And an integer is only whole numbers. It can only be whole numbers, no fractions, no decimals. And it is either positive or negative, or it can equal 0. So that's where our integers are, okay? So 0 and all the positives and 0 and all the negatives. Only whole numbers. And when they ask for the sum of integers, the sum is we add up all the values of integers. So here below, I have a series of a sequence or a sum of integers. Now, you'll notice that I put them all in brackets, and the reason for that is because I want you to understand that I'm adding all these things together. Now, when I add a negative number, I'm effectively subtracting, so that's what my next step is. So here's my sequence of integers that I'm going to be adding together. So I have negative 4, negative 4, 3, negative 1, negative 7, 10, 14. Okay, now if I have to add those all together, what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to essentially turn the numbers, I'm going to simplify it for myself. So if I'm adding a positive number, in our normal math, we add positive numbers all the time, but we don't put a positive number there. We actually just get rid of that and say, okay, well, if it doesn't have a sign in front of it, it's going to be a positive number. Okay, this is a negative number, so I'm going to start with negative 4. That's my first number. And then I'm going to add a positive 3, so I'm just going to do plus 3. And then I'm going to add a negative 1, which is effectively just subtracting. So I'm going to write subtract 1. And then same thing, I'm adding a negative 7. That's like I'm just subtracting. I'm going to add 10, then I'm going to add 14. Now I'm going to add these things all together. And there's two different strategies we could be doing. You could work from left to right and just sort of go up a roller coaster of like, ooh, like, so here, I'll do it twice and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so this first one, I'm going to do, I'm going to be going each number one at a time, and then I'm going to figure out what I'm going to do. So I have negative 4, and I'm going to add 3, so that means I'm at negative 1. Okay, so negative 1 subtract 1 is negative 2. Negative 2 subtract 7 is negative 9. Negative 9 plus 10 is 1. 1 plus 14 is 15. And I get my number, 15. Now, this one is... This works. The only thing is you have to keep it in your head the entire time as you're moving along. Realistically, I should have been crossing out the work as I kept going. Now, what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to do all the positives first, and then I'm going to do all the negatives after. So what I'm going to start with is I have positive 3. So 3 plus 10 is 13, plus 4 is 27. So I can write down 27. And I'm going to take away, I have negative 4, negative 5, negative 5 plus negative 7, or negative 5 subtract 7, is negative 12. So I'm going to do 27 subtract 12, and that's going to give me the answer. Oh, that does not equal 25, that equals 15. All right, so there's two different methods you could use when you're doing this type of work. Either method works realistically, it's more of a personal preference. I typically, in my mind, I think if I'm really thinking about it, I usually do my positives first, and then I get my answer, but okay, so now when we add them together, it's an important skill for us to understand. Now, what's interesting about this is I drew this number line, and you're going to notice in my next lesson too. I drew my number line in, and then I was like, why does it look so weird? It's because it's backwards. It's a backwards number line. It realistically should have all the positives going this way to the right, and all the negatives should be going to the left. So that's a little bit of a mistake, but that's okay. All right, so I'm going to start at negative 3. Starting at negative 3 on this question, and then I'm going to add 4. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. That's going to give me plus 1. Next one, I started at negative 6. I'm going to add 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That gives me a 0. Now, these are actually a specific type of number. They're called opposite integers. So a negative 6 and a positive 6, those two things cancel each other out, and they're going to equal 0 every time. So whenever I have two of the same values, except one's a negative, one's a positive, those are called opposite integers. All right, my next one, I have negative 3, or negative 1, I'm starting at. I'm going to subtract 3. 1, 2, 3. I'm at -4. My last one, I'm at 2. I'm going to subtract 4. Subtract 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. -2. All right, so on this page, I'd like you to do 135 and 136. Please complete all of the questions. And I'm gonna double up my lessons right now because it's a very similar concept. Okay, so this is for the next one, which is 137. And you'll notice that these are two number lines that I've drawn out. Well, which one's correct? You should always be using the one that has positives going to the right and negatives going to the left. And the reason for that is because we have this rule right here. When using a number line, anytime you subtract, you move left. Anytime you add, you move right. Okay? Now, why do we do it this way? In my mind, if you think about how we draw graphs, graphs are typically drawn like this, where you have a graph. And if you were to say, what direction is this going? The numbers always get bigger as you go to the right, and the numbers always get bigger as you go up. So that means if I go down, the numbers are going smaller and smaller. So I should draw out my number lines like how I draw my graphs. So I should be using this method right here, not this one. So even though last page I drew it wrong, you should be using it this method. Okay, so now we're going to be at 4, and we're going to add 1. So that means we're just at 5. That's a nice easy one. Next one, we have 5 that we're starting at. And now we're going to subtract 8. So when we add positive numbers, we move to the right. When we take away, or when we subtract, we move to the left. So I need to go 8 times to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I get the number -3. Right? So I hope these aren't terribly complex questions for you. I am confident that you guys will be able to fly through this actually pretty quickly. So what I would like you to do is, can you please complete page 137, number 1. Let's do B, D, and F. And then I'd like you to do number 2, but only the same one. So B, D, F. Oh, you can't see this. I'm sorry. And then let's do number 3. All right, there's your your pages: 137, 1 BDF, and then 2 BDF, and then 3, and then the last page that we were working on. All right, I hope this is helpful, and I hope you guys all have a wonderful day. Bye.